Have you felt like it's harder to sell than ever before? Are your deals stalling out, or are you losing to indecision? Is it causing you tons of stress and making you second guess yourself? If so, you're not alone, and it's not your fault. In today's video, I'll explain the external factors why and what you can do to actually take back control. So we're going to cover today the 4 must-know data trends reshaping how top reps sell today. And you'll learn the exact simple strategies you can implement literally now to beat out the competition, hit 200% to target plus. And this is based on data from McKinsey, Deloitte, and Trust Radius. So this is whether you are an account executive, AE, or maybe you run your own company. Today, you'll learn very tactical insights you can use to get results. And if you stay at the very end of this video, you'll even learn the top 5 reasons buyers are making their purchasing decisions. And this is all backed by data. And these will actually really surprise you. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Marcus Chance. I'm the guy right here in the hat. I'm the sales coach who has coached and trained reps and teams from some of the biggest companies out there. We've worked with over 700 clients. There's some companies like Salesforce, Google, Zoom, Qualtrics, Auth0, HubSpot, Gartner, Dropbox, and way more, but also down to startups that have zero recognition and are barely doing $1 million ARR. And I've trained and coached reps on the entire sales process from cold to sold so they can actually blow out their sales targets, max out their comp, and make as much money as possible, and ultimately create their life of dreams with financial freedom while eliminating and reducing their stress. So now that we have that out of the way, let's actually dive into the data trends that we uncovered so you can get ahead of the competition. So the first trend I want to share with you is B2B e-commerce as a key sales channel. The data has shown that companies are seeing on average 34% of the revenue are coming from e-com. And it's the second year in a row it's been more effective than any other channel. This is a pretty impressive second year in a row that people are actually literally buying directly online without the use of a salesperson. And my theory is this: most buyers, they don't want to engage or work with a salesperson who doesn't seem to understand their world, especially if you feel like that salesperson is trying to push a product and maybe hit their number versus actually helping them. I've been in sales for over a decade now, and I train and work with tons of salespeople. Even my own experience, I personally have bought countless pieces of software without talking to a salesperson live because I did my own homework. And unfortunately, most of the time, when I do get on calls with salespeople to learn more about their products and services, sadly, because I do a lot of research in advance, I seem to know far more about the solution than they actually do, which is disturbing actually. Now, my questions don't usually get answered, and if they do get answered by them, they usually lack confidence or any type of depth. Now, what's also very interesting about this data is when we dive even deeper, 73% of buyers are willing to spend over $50,000 online, which is compared to 59% in prior years. 39% are willing to spend over $500,000 online compared to 28% in prior years, and 20% are willing to spend over $1 million online compared to 15% in prior years. So this is like pretty interesting, right? When you get these stats, ultimately, before I thought, okay, maybe it's a smaller ticket. I'm a small company. I'm just buying online. But these are even big purchases, 7-figure purchases that people are willing to make online without working through a salesperson. Now, what does that actually mean for you? So from a company's perspective, it means investing in e-com could be a very strong move for your business. Right? It obviously allows buyers to buy the way they want. Now, if that's going to be the case, depending on what you sell, whether it's a software or a service, a product, whatever, this also potentially can mean adjustments to your sales organization to better fit this over time. And yes, that could mean reduction in force or reallocating people to different types of roles. Now, from a rep's perspective, here's the reality. You can't force a buyer to the sales process. So for some people, if they're only going to buy online and they're not going to want to talk with you, it is what it is. We can't really change that. Now, what can you actually control? It's the rest of the buyers who do want to work with a salesperson. And when you are on a call with them, you must show up as a trusted advisor. You can't be that quote unquote bad rep that I share some of my past experiences. So you must come to the table. You must know your ICP, your ideal customer profiles, problems inside and out. You must know use cases inside and out and have relevant examples to share with them. You must have a clear, compelling point of view of how you can actually help them. And you must guide them in how to make a buying decision. And on top of that, if companies are reducing their headcount because they need less staff because some buyers are buying on their own, ultimately that means you need the skills to stay ahead of the pack while serving customers. The saying goes, the cream always rises to the top, and really whatever at the bottom will get cut, especially in an environment like this. So let's talk about trend number 2. Most decision makers are using 10 or more distinct channels to interact with suppliers along the buying journey. I want you to really internalize that for a second. They're using 10 or more distinct channels to interact with the potential vendors, suppliers along the buyer journey. This is like literally a 2x increase over last decade or so. And what's really interesting is more than half their survey respondents say they are likely to turn elsewhere if they don't have a smooth experience. Now, you might be asking, what types of channels are we talking about here? Now, I put a list here as just different examples. This could be in-person interactions, Zoom calls, phone calls, on-site visits. This could be via chatbots, texting, social media. This can be emails, direct messages, website visits, in-person events, online events, podcast interviews, interacting on the mobile app. It could be online communities, in-person communities, books, trials, demos, peer reviews, ads, etc., etc. So for instance, my own company, Venliconsulting, Consulting, we sell to individuals and companies, and because of that, we leverage over 90% of this list intentionally because we want to make sure we are meeting buyers where they want to be met. I want to give you a really specific example, right? So recently, we closed a $2 billion organization into one of our training programs, and what's really interesting is the journey that they took, okay? And this is based on the data that we had in our system and also conversation with the economic buyer. So this is the rough journey we mapped after talking with them, running the data. First, we were referred over by a trusted peer. Then they started following me on LinkedIn. That took them to my YouTube channel. They started to check out some of my long form content. Then they sent some of my content to their sales team. The team actually applied and got some results. They let them know, which is cool. He then checked out my website, perusing testimonials, a case study, even more than that. Now, he did share with me as we were having this conversation, he wished we had pricing on our site. And actually, this makes a lot of sense. So we are in the process now of completely updating our whole website for B2C and B2B offers and including that as well, because obviously we want to make sure we're matching the market and needs of the buyers. After that, then he messaged me on LinkedIn. At that point, he booked a discovery call. So think about that. Even before we even got like an initial real conversation, he had like 6-7 different touch points before we got on in conversation. Then he booked a discovery call, which led to multiple calls to a demo call. Then he bought my book. He also reviewed other review sites. And during this whole journey, he also watched more YouTube videos and had listened to even a few podcasts I was on. He even attended a free live master I ran as well. And we texted back and forth during the journey and we emailed too. So really, I only listed 15 steps here, but some of them are multiple steps, multiple times they were done. So they're easily probably 20 plus different touch points all throughout the process. And these are just the steps that we were able to gather. So let's talk about how you can apply this. From a company perspective, if you're watching, if you own a company or you're a leader, number one, control the channels you can access and make it seamless for the customer experience. So all those things I mentioned, you have better control than obviously the individual. The second thing is provide the tools for your team so they can meet buyers where they are actually hanging out. All right, so this could be video conferencing tools, high value collateral that buyers want, training them, give them the tools and resources to show up as a trusted advisor on sales calls and how they communicate on all channels. So you want them to not show up as a product dumper, but someone that is being viewed as a trusted advisor. And you can also build your brand, help your team. This could be social media, pockets, etc. And you get my point. Now, for reps, you might be thinking, okay, cool, I'm waiting for my company to do all that. You don't want to do that. Don't wait for your company to start doing this, and you want to take it into your own hands. So what you can really control is being wildly vulnerable in your sales skills. If you think about it, is your discovery to close win rate less than 30%? If so, you got to ask yourself, how effective are you on video calls? How effective are you in person in writing influential emails? How effective are you writing sales calls to multiple stakeholders? Are you showing providing value to your customers? You get my point. You want to work and improve and advance your sales skills so you are closing at 30% plus consistently, because you want to be able to manage all those channels we mentioned and do it wildly well. And the reality is, obviously, if you're not closing the rate you want to be at, chances are pretty good. Potentially, you are not as effective at these channels as you thought you probably were. And reality is that buyers are literally buying this way right now. If you don't match that and don't show up the same way, then you will get left behind by the reps who are actually doing this well. Let's talk about trend number 3, which is using Gen AI to drive productivity and growth. Now, this should really be no surprise, but obviously there's a huge growing trend at the time of this video of using Gen AI to help sales be far more productive and get better results. So this is going to be a pretty short section as a result, but I want to show you this table I pulled from a McKinsey report. So these are Gen AI hero use cases. So for instance, it goes from better insights on the left side to better actions to better impact. So a lot of companies are already at the time of this video, they're using to enrich their data, segment and stuff, prioritize, and maybe recommend product, which is cool. And there's some better action, which is recommend some of these things as well, which is neat. But the better impact is really the section right here, which is essentially making your salespeople far more effective, from pre-meeting prep to helping generate talking points or scripts to live interaction to post-meeting summaries, helping write emails after, to managing RFPs and RFQs as well, using it as a smart research assistant for account planning, to even use it to coach the sales reps performance as well. So this can be very powerful, right? So as a company, what can you do? Start looking at where your sales org is essentially wasting time and start looking for solutions to help them eliminate non-selling time. Because the less time they have to do what's known as IPAs, income purchase activities, companies, the worse their results. Now, for reps, what you don't want to do is you don't want to wait for companies to do that, right? You want to start using tools on your own that can help you improve efficiency across the board. So for instance, we use AI in our company at the rep level for meeting prep, meeting note-taking, post-meeting summaries, identifying key insights and analyzing data, account planning, and so much more. Now, the fourth trend is a big one, so we're going to spend the most of our time on this, which is trust has gone down and buyers are more risk averse than ever. Right, so this shouldn't be a surprise, especially the trend of number one of e-com being a growing channel. Only 30% of consumers highly trust companies. Now, the reality is buyers are very wary of making bad decisions and, of course, impacting their company in a bad way, but also making themselves look bad. So they're doing a lot of homework on their own, along with increasing the number of touch points of channels. So we saw in trend number 2, which is double over the last several years. So we're going to focus on the 5 core areas that really influence trust, which is number 1, the resources buyers use to make decisions. Number 2, the channels they're using for research. Number 3, the user conversations they're having. Number 4, what buyers, which companies reps actually did. And number 5, common primary reasons behind buyers' selections. So let's dive into number 1, the resources buyers use to make decisions. So with buyers looking at different sources to make a decision, let's discuss the 5 that's most influential. According to Trust Radius, the top 5 most influential to buyers are number 1, free trials. Number 2, their own experience. Number 3, product demos. Number 4, consultant recommendations. And number 5, user reviews. Now, what's also very interesting is 78% of buyers had heard of the product they had purchased before they started the research process. This makes a lot of sense because at the beginning of a buying cycle, most prospects are searching for products that have some sort of familiarity with what they already know about. And then the trials, the demo, the proof of concept, etc., can help answer very specific use case questions or a deeper understanding the actual capability of the tool they're looking to buy. Free trials can be very powerful when you do it right, and there's a clear line of expectations as well. Next category, which is your own prior experience. Reality is you have zero control if your product has that experience. So how can you leverage that? Right? If you're a salesperson, you sell your solution to one company. If they change companies, they may be more apt to make that change at that company too. So keep a really close eye to the champions. Now, what ties prior experience are product demos right here. So it's really clear a world-class demo is super vital. And you can see on this little graph here, there's 4 types of demos that buyers like to utilize. And you can see the difference between an all buyers or enterprise buyers, but there's live demos, record demos, interactive demos, and user demos. My point here is really this: is you want to offer multiple ways to actually demo, but also on top of that, you want to make sure the demo is on point and showing how it solves their specific problems and use cases. You want to solve exactly what the biggest problems are, and you don't want to feature them, especially if you have a sales engineer on. Third, let's talk about research channels. So what's really interesting is the number 1 search channel across the board is Google, right? Between regular buyers and also enterprise buyers, with the second one being YouTube, which is also owned by Google. So this is pretty interesting. And you can see the other ones are people are also looking at Trust Radius, G2, and LinkedIn. And you can see they kind of drops down quite a bit, right? This is why it's so key to have your company be Googleable, if you will, right? So for instance, I Googled my own company and I put a screenshot here, right? Venly. This is above the fold. So this is not even scrolling down here, but you can see I literally Googled Venliconsulting. You can see my website is top 1, then is my LinkedIn page, and Trustpilot reviews, and Forbes Council. On the right side is Google and Google reviews. So this is what pops up first when I type in my company name. If I Google my name, Marcus Chan, you can see here, first is going to be LinkedIn, then it's going to be Instagram, YouTube channel, then Forbes, then my Amazon, my book. You can even see here, there's images right here of me as well. And then right here, because I'm an author as well, it shows up there too. Now, I'm sharing this with you because this means you want to do your best to be able to be on that first page when they look you up, because that means you're controlling the narrative here. From a company perspective, that means your content that you put out is consistent and on point, okay? Now, I want to be really clear here. My search results today are a result of years of effort. It didn't happen overnight. I've run my business over 5 years of time this video. So it's just compound over time where I'm able to almost own everything on the first page, which is cool. Now, from a salesperson's perspective, the only real control you have in this specific section here are on your social media channels. So if you are posting high value content for your ICP, this could be a competitive advantage over time. Now, in this next section, we'll discuss user conversation. So this next section is where buyers find users to have conversation with, which actually influence them and their decision. So you can see here between all buyers and enterprise buyers, you can see coworkers is a really common one, right? Peers is a really common one. Vendors is a really common one. Forum and also search, right? So you can see it right here. Now, What's also really interesting is the vendor one. If you see the vendor one here, that does mean basically customers. So these are really the top 3 right here. And the bottom 2 are forums and search. This makes a lot of sense because buyers get a better picture when they're talking to people they know or in a similar situation to really understand the specific use cases. So let me give you a really easy example from my personal experience. I recently changed my website and data analytics platform. Now, aside from my own research, I first went to my tech guy and I asked him what he thought, because I knew he actually used it extensively in the past, and also on the side hustle, you use the same software. Now, again, this is the coworker piece, right? After he shared his thoughts with me, I then went to multiple peer friends of mine in the industry who also have used the same tool as well, and I got their feedback. Because the sources are really high quality, along with all my other research channels, I pulled the trigger 5 years into the buying cycle. So what does that mean for you as a company? That means, well, number 1, make sure you have a world-class product, right? Because if you have a world-class product, that's half the battle. Number 2, staying constantly connected with your customers. When they're happy, they will happily tell people about their experience when they're asked, especially in one of these situations. As a sales professional, you are more limited here, but what can you actually do? So number 1, you can have a list of happy customers that you can reference if prospect asks to speak to them. Telling those stories are really, really powerful as part of your sales process. And number 2, identify the forums your prospects are on and join them. Gain a lot of insight about your buyers, and that can help you other parts of the sales process. This could be Reddit, Slack community, whatever. Now, I want to incorporate this next data point I found it very interesting, which is what buyers wish companies and reps did. So let's dive into each one, because I find it very interesting. So the very top one, which is, I wish all vendors had transparent pricing. 58%. I found it very interesting. Number 2, I wish vendors would stop contacting me when I'm not ready to talk. Now, let's just be real here. You're a sales professional. That's part of your job. It's probably not going to change. That's the nature of the beast, okay? I wish I could easily talk to other people like me who have experience with the product. That makes a lot of sense. Kind of lines that we discussed before, right? I wish someone could tell me about the criteria requirements I don't know about but should. That's very interesting. So meaning, whether they bought that software before or not, or bought a similar solution, they need some guidance in basically just digging through all the information overwhelmed to actually make a high quality decision. I wish sales were less pushy. So that's obviously, as a salesperson, you can control that based off how you show up and how you actually run your calls and run your sales process. I wish calculating ROI was easier so I can get the budget approved. This is really powerful. So when I read this tells me that buyers, if they're really sold, they need your help. They need our help as sales professionals to help them calculate an ROI that makes sense in their world. I wish it was easy to organize and track all my research. You maybe not can control that, but you can definitely guide them in terms of providing maybe templates, decision-making frameworks to make it a little bit easier. I wish driving consensus across my buying group was easier. That's a reality. That's going to be an internal thing and none of the above. So a lot of interesting information. What can I learn from this? A few things. For companies, start off with having really transparent pricing available on your site. So before buyers hop on sales calls, many want to know the ballpark ranges to ensure it's even a feasible potential purchase. This is why we're making changes to our website right now to make sure that's already available before they get on a call with my team. Now, for reps out there, even if pricing is available on the company's site, make sure early in the sales process you are providing a range. This helps the buyer understand this key piece, will also help you qualify opportunity. And then the second piece is help your prospect buy. Right? So you want to understand what buying criteria should be looked at. And next, you want to help your prospect buy. That's helping them understand what buying criteria should be looked at and why. This also means detaching from outcomes so you're not pushy and you're focused on being a trusted advisor and actually helping them solve a problem. You also want to help use their numbers and help them calculate the ROI and COI. And then fourth, you want to guide and coach them in how to sell the buying and gain consensus. The reality is some of them, they're not paid sales professionals. They're not good at selling internally either. So they need your help to help them go from A to Z. And if you just depend on them to do it internally, most of them are not going to have that skill to actually do it. On this final section here, these are common primary reasons why buyers buy the way they buy. So this is why they buy. This is probably the most important thing we're going to cover in today's video. So let's check this chart. So the biggest one is it met our needs for the best price. I'm going to say again, it met our needs for the best price. That's for all buyers and enterprise buyers. Number 2, it was the safest and most trusted option. Number 3, we already had a relationship with the vendor. Number 4, the existing customers gave us confidence. And number 5, the demo blew us away. There's other reasons as well, but these are primary reasons. If you really think about this, 3 out of the top 5 primary reasons they bought was because of the sales professional, right? For it met their needs. It's also they saw it was the most trusted and safest option, and the demo blew them away. And the other two are less controllable, especially if there's no prior relationship, and especially if the existing customers aren't good at articulating their experience. That can definitely impact the outcome. So let's discuss what we can control, the core one. So met our needs for the best price, aka this solves our exact problems, fits our use cases, and we see value that far exceeds the investment. So as a sales professional, this illustrates the value and importance of 2 core parts of your sales process, which is number 1, a strong discovery is required because it's the only way you can truly understand their needs at a deep level for all the stakeholders as part of the process. And number 2, a strong demo is required because it's how you show them how you best meet their needs. Next, it's the safest and most trusted option. This goes right back into how you run your sales process because every interaction with them either increases or decreases trust and risk. This is from how you run the calls to the customer stories you share to the proof that it's the best option. You get my point. I want you to think about this for even your own personal life. Have you ever been in a situation where you're looking to buy something, but your interaction with that salesperson caused you to lose trust in that solution so you didn't end up buying? This could be buying a car or a large purchase or whatever. So I'll give you examples. So this is years ago, and I remember I was looking to buy a new car. This was over 10 years ago. I wanted to buy an Infiniti sedan. I want like a 4-door sedan, an Infiniti, a nice one. So I went down to the dealership, talked to the salesman. He seemed like a nice guy, but he's one of those guys where he's probably a little old school, been around the block for a little while. We get in the car, he spin off all these features of how he loves all these things, loves the stereo, loves the leather, loves all these things. Didn't really understand what I needed. I kept trying to tell him what was most important for me, but he just wasn't really, I didn't really feel heard, to be quite frank. So I was already not liking my engagement with them. And then it gets even worse. It's probably rare for most people, but he even started making racial jokes, not towards Asians, but just other racial jokes. And I'm like, whoa, this is now getting very uncomfortable. I'm just going to have to roll out of here. Because my experience with that guy completely turned me off, and I walked away not buying. I was ready to go literally that day and buy a car in cash, but I walked away because that was not a good experience. I think I need to go to a different dealership because I felt pretty good about this car, but maybe I could get a better experience somewhere else with another similar type of car. Now, maybe you've never been in an exact type of situation like that where you're running into a racist car salesperson, but my point is, if you have interacted with a bad salesperson, it probably made you less likely to be, for lack of a better term, compliant to actually move forward with whatever purchase you're looking to make. Because ultimately, the salesperson is an extension of portray trust and risk. So a quick side note, if you run a company, you can help with this by ensuring all other channels you control are dialed and aligned with the same value prop your sales team is stating. Because when the external searches align how the sales process is run, trust goes up and risk goes down. Now, third, the demo blew us away. Okay, now we mentioned this already at the first point, but this illustrates how important powerful demos can be when we show exactly how the problem is solved and the buyer's looking to get resolved. We covered a lot today from all the data points we pulled from Deloitte, McKinsey, Trust Rating, and more. So let's first start by recapping the 4 core trends, which is number 1, the B2B e-com as a key sales channel. Number 2, most decision makers are using 10 or more distinct channels to interact with suppliers along buying journey. Number 3, using Gen I to drive productivity and growth. And number 4, trust has gone down and buyers are more risk adverse than ever. Now, if we had to sum it up, the old way of selling is dead, which is a very linear process of prospect buyers, contact them, qualify them, pitch them, overcome, close them, follow up, and rinse and repeat. That old way no longer exists. And really, it's become a far more complex process that's not so linear. And this is even at the SMB, mid-market, and obviously, especially at the enterprise level. And buyers are more sophisticated. They do far more research as part of the process. They're more risk adverse, and they expect more of salespeople when they speak with them. So what can you do? So companies, talk about you first. You can design and implement the processes so your company and brand or on all channels, your prospects are already checking out. Like they're going to research in advance anyways. So you just want to do your best to make sure you control that narrative. And that starts right now because it'll take time to actually do. And it's important to understand that it's a journey, not an event, which leads to my next point, which is a faster way to see results. You want to raise the bar for your sales team to go from the average seller to a trusted advisor. This means hiring right, onboarding right, and training right. If you look at athletes, there's different levels of athletes. There's going to be the amateurs, people that play high school ball, college ball, and then beyond, the pros. So you want to make sure if the market wants to talk to pros, your team has to be at the same level. So don't provide training,
tools and resources for them to be wildly successful, so they're truly helping their customers solve problems and not just product pushers. You want to create sellers that buyers actually desire. Now, reps. So you do not want to wait for your company to make these changes. Instead, you want to take full ownership of your role. So if you don't, you'll keep trying to sell the old way, which is, these are what I call order takers. You have your awesome solution, you're solving a low-level problem, right? And then you get ghosted, stalled, or closed lost. Instead, you must sell the new way, become a trusted advisor, which shows up more of your awesome solution. You are for sure solving a lower level problem, but you're also making sure it aligns to executive business impact, right? Because if you do this properly, you're bridging the gap of how your awesome solution solves that lower problem and directly impacts the overall objectives, right? You're actually uncovering and validating throughout the entire sales process. You're multi-threading with stakeholders. You're directly aligning your solution to the entire org and its stakeholders, and you're creating a clear business case built together with champion route. If you nail this consistently, you'll blow out your sales structure for years to come. Now, if you want our direct help, whether you're a company that wants us to train, coach your team, or sell in this environment, book a call below to see if we can help. Or if you're an individual who's hungry to pave their own path as well, and you don't want to depend on your company, you can also book a call as well below to discuss our individual programs. If you want to see the exact sales methodology we're using right now to crush it in the current risk-averse market and close it over 40%, check out this next video. You can see right here on the screen.